Hey, welcome to Stone Cold Stros, episode 15 of season 2. I'm Brandon Strange. I'm joined by Charlie Palillo today. Read Charlie's column weekly on sportsmap.com and follow him on X at Palillo. Josh is dealing with storm-related issues, but we'll be back next week. Charlie, you're battling through some power issues right now, and we're thankful that you're here doing this with us today, so I appreciate it. So shout out to you, shout out to Josh, and everyone else struggling with power outages in the heat of the summer. Just a reminder, please be kind to each other right now, especially towards hospitality staff, and be mindful and safe rolling through intersections. Those are generally good practices anyway, but even more so right now. So Charlie, as they are one to do, the Astros gave the city some good vibes during a tough time. We spoke last week about how the stretch of games was critical because this is a important part of the schedule because it's softened a bit. It's against a lot of division matchups. So far, the Astros have pounced. They've gone 8-2 with the sweep of the A's, while the Mariners have gone 5-5 and the Rangers 3-7 in that same time period. So Charlie, you've been preaching this entire time to those willing to hear it that this season was not lost. We had a lot of naysayers in the comments, you know who you are, saying that the season was done. It was time to sell off. They were accusing us of being paid by the team. I bet that's not something you ever heard of, Charlie. As we record this, Houston is still under 500, still 4 games out of first. But Charlie, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the phrase, but how close are Seattle and Texas to FAFOing right now?
Well, check the rearview mirror. Objects are closer than they may appear. I'm such a silly homer. No, I'm not. I'm a realist, a pragmatist, sometimes to a fault, I guess. But 162 games. One of baseball's time-honored cliches is it's a marathon, not a sprint. And the Astros, out of the starting gate, tripped over themselves, ripped up their knees, and maybe sprained an ankle. But they didn't rupture an Achilles. They didn't tear an ACL. So they were able to get up and have plenty of time to retrain, get back in the race. Helped by this being, well, the weather disrupted our sports map column schedule. So just in case you haven't seen it yet, the mild West, right? That's the American League West. As the Astros have gained, the Mariners and Rangers, as you referenced, Brandon, have flagged. The Rangers offense is in a coma. 3 runs per game over the last month after averaging 6 runs per game for most of the first month. Dropped 2 out of 3 at home to the Angels, who the Astros now try to slaughter this week before heading out to Oakland for 3 more with the A's. The Mariners losing 2 out of 3 in Baltimore, now 4 at the Yankees before 3 at the Nationals. Objects closer than they may appear. The Astros may be right next door in the next lane by the time they leave Seattle if they have a good series with the Mariners, 4 games up at T-Mobile Park beginning Memorial Day Monday. So no cause for a party at 21-26, but from the depths of 7-19, they're now since then 14-7. So they haven't undone all the damage of 7-19, but they're getting close.
Speaking of objects that are closer than they appear, the like and subscribe buttons. Just a quick reminder for those watching on YouTube, you can show your support for the hometown team by hitting like on this video right now, and you can support our drive to 25 by subscribing to the channel and helping us get one step closer to 25,000 subs. We appreciate everyone who has, because this channel cannot exist without your support. And just a reminder that the full version of this podcast is available at your favorite podcast app. Charlie, as we record, as Chandler Rome notes, there are 3 players across MLB tied for number 1 in F-WAR at 3. Those players are Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Kyle Tucker. Tucker is also tied for the MLB lead in home runs with Gunnar Henderson at 15. Is Kyle Tucker playing himself into an unaffordable contract for Houston? Had that already happened? And maybe more importantly, Charlie, is there such a thing?
When you're signing the checks, yes, there is such a thing. You can impose your own salary cap. Baseball does not have a salary cap, though the competitive balance tax functions as somewhat of one at different thresholds. Yes, Kyle Tucker's latest request might be 10 years, $1 billion. Bogus internet story hitting, not Jeff Passan's site, saying $40 million per year. The Astros are about to sign Kyle Tucker. Jim Crane is not a rube. Those thinking he blew it by not signing Tucker before now should at least grant Crane the wisdom that he's not going to buy ultimately high on Tucker while he's in the greatest stretch of his career. Yeah, let's do the deal now, Kyle Tucker. Here's the blank check. You fill in those blanks. But if Kyle Tucker was a taxi, the meter is running upwards of what he's looking to command now. He's not going to stay this hot. I mean, he may be having the best year of his career, right? He's 27 years old. He's right in the window where you should be at the very peak of your physical talents. Is he going to hit 51 home runs? His pace the season going into the Angel series? I'd bet the under on that. But here are a couple of numbers. Tucker, going into the week, OPS of 1,045. You mentioned Ohtani and Betts, right? And Tucker's a good right fielder. Tucker, one screw up on the bases over the weekend, but for my money, he's the Astros' best base runner. Aside to my aside, as a base stealer, he's spectacular.
Yep.
90 stolen bases in Kyle Tucker's career, but caught only 13 times. That's upper 80%, a high 80s%. This year, 7-0. So around the margins, right? Ohtani's unbelievable, but he's just DHing, right? So it doesn't add any defensive value. Obviously, the pitching value. Betts is incredible playing a competent shortstop, but that's the rarefied air where Kyle Tucker is right now. All right, Tucker's going to have a slump. 162 games. Everybody does. Let's say, oh no, he loses 100 points in OPS over the rest of the season. Well, that would have Kyle Tucker finish at 945, which is tremendous, which would be his career high. Well, what goes up must come down. Let's invert that. Yordan Alvarez has basically been El Stinko for over a month. If Kyle Tucker drops 100 OPS points, if Yordan gains 100 OPS points the rest of the season, Alvarez would still have the worst OPS of his career. So I think Tucker and Alvarez, between the two of them, are going to net out what they've done so far this year at least, which makes for a very, very potent combo. We know this is they're going to have to juggle outfield playing time. Tucker's every day in right, one off day per month is about enough when you're 27. Here's to Jake Myers. Plenty of people owe him an apology, not letting the stew simmer. Again, Jake Myers on a great run. I don't think he's going to have an OPS over 900 and hit 300, but good, solid player. The breakout from Myers this year, say, that Chas McCormick had last year, that's absolutely in play. And with McCormick coming back, at least there are some seemingly viable strings to pull and buttons to push for Joe Espada, darn sure relative to a month ago.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those people that has been a Jake Myers naysayer, but I think the stats have reported my naysaying up to this point. But
right,
he's carrying a 920 OPS right now. No one could have predicted that. You would have been happy with, I think, 100 points shy of that. Granted, I think he will come back to earth, but he's definitely looking much more like pre-injury Jake Myers than he has since that injury. And maybe this is the guy that James Click thought he could be. He certainly looks like he's, right now swinging the bat with a ton of confidence right now. And again, like you're getting these performances that you didn't really expect out of him. Where would you be at without John Singleton? We'll talk more about the Abreu situation in the second half of our conversation here. Mauricio Dubon has been very productive for you as just a piece off the bench for you. But that does raise the question, because you've got Chas McCormick on his way back to this roster. What do you do, Charlie, if you're Joe Espada? Because Jake Myers is raking right now. Chas wasn't necessarily what you'd say, he wasn't tearing the cover off the ball prior to being injured again. So, but in fairness, Chas has meant a lot to this team over the past few years. What do you do if you're Joe Espada with Chas McCormick? Because again, you don't want to upset the apple cart, but because you've got Myers, but again, like you also don't want a guy to lose his place due to injury.
Well, there's no way you stop surfing the Jake Myers wave when he's swinging it the way he has swung it. And defensive metrics are open to interpretation and debate. And we know Jake Myers is kind of a noodle arm out there, but in terms of going to get the baseball, the metrics approaching a third of the way through the season, there's not a better center fielder going to get the ball this season than Jake Myers. Circuitous routes, whatever. The data is the data, and the Astros believe in that data. So they're not going to demote their best defensive center fielder when he's also hitting. Chas McCormick, speaking of limp noodles, that's what he was swinging before he was hurt. Now, was he playing while ailing that dragged down those numbers further? Perhaps, but he was at a 603 OPS. And McCormick was an outstanding player last year, very solid in 2022, but that's not a 6-7 year track record that you kick Jake Myers to the curb to reinsert Chas McCormick. And Myers was getting an opportunity diminished because of his slow start. McCormick a little center, Dubon a little bit center. But Myers has to be the primary. So that leaves McCormick playing time in left. Jordan likes to play left field. Well, he's never going to be the everyday left fielder, the wear and tear on his legs. And maybe they need to tell Jordan, you want to play more left field? Let me dangle the carrot. Hit more, and we'll play you more in left field. McCormick may well best be served to be a platoon guy. Right, his entire career, he has blasted left-handed pitching. He improved last year against right-handed pitching, but he wasn't really good against right-handed pitching. He was playable. Right before that, he'd been awful against right-handed pitching. But Chas McCormick, if he's on the roster, unless it all disappears on him, he should absolutely be in there against lefties. Furthering the quandary, Joey Loperfido is a fascinating combination of numbers. 17 strikeouts in 39 at-bats starting the Angel series. That is horrible. Well, when Joey Loperfido does not strike out so far, he's batting .591, a preposterously unsustainable number, batting average on balls in play. If you're .350, unless you're a .340 hitter, that's unsustainable. Well over 500 is impossible. But the way he runs, the way he handles himself in the outfield, are they going to decide we want him getting every day at bats as opposed to piecemeal? Right? In a stretch a week ago where once in 5 games he got a start. John Singleton's done some nice things, but I still see limited upside. I would have Loperfido playing first base every day at AAA if they're not going to get him enough at bats to warrant his holding on to a roster spot. And one other, not ramble, I'll say discourse, Brandon. Sounds so much nicer. Altuve with a first pitch home run on Sunday. The extra base hits had kind of been in dry dock for him. Altuve's sensational still, but he is 34. And when the team was lousy and he was their best hitter, tough to sit him. But he should not be playing second base 150 times this year. Once per week is a way to get Dubon some at-bats. Yeah. Dubon should be getting a start at second base. Right? One start per week would still mean 135 starts at second base for Altuve. You throw him some DH starts as well. It's not like you're benching him, really curbing his playing time, but the long game. Altuve wears down at 34, playing virtually every day at second base through the dog days of summer and into September. That has some problematic potential to it.
Not to mention the fact that throughout the season, and you don't expect this trend to continue, but throughout the season, Jose Altuve has struggled a little bit with runners in scoring position, whereas Dubon has had some success in that stat. So there's a couple of reasons why you should probably work Dubon more into the lineup, and second base does seem to be a logical place to provide. And like you said, it's just a logical place to get Jose Altuve some rest. Speaking of some encouraging performances, we saw Hunter Brown and Spencer Arrighetti put up some nice games. Where are you at with them on where they're currently trending right now? And granted, we know those guys are going to be, back into the rotation guys once you're completely healthy. Or Urquidy seems to be on his way back, but you don't know what he'll look like once he's up here. Where are you at with their trend right now?
It's interesting because Brown's a little bit older, maybe a year and a half older. We've seen him struggle more at the major league level as a function of opportunity to fail than Spencer Arrighetti. So I don't want to fall into bias on that to say, I'd bet on Arrighetti. If one of them is to become a solid back end of the rotation major league starter, who would you take? I might lean Arrighetti as sight lesser known to this point. It was a very good progress start for Arrighetti last time out. If you want to grade it against the competition a little bit, well, the Brewers' offense isn't bad, right? It's the A's offense that's terrible. Hunter Brown, that it's considered progress, 4 runs in 5 innings, or 5 innings and change. If Brown can take well to the bullpen, he flashed there in 2022 and in the postseason a little bit, that would be a nice fortification of that bullpen. Right? The Astros get their one off day within 30 this Thursday. So they do not need both Brown and Arrighetti for a turn through the rotation starting Friday, because Ronel Blanco comes back to the eligible list on Sunday. Interesting decision for the Astros, bring him back against the A's, or you know what? He throws one simulated game this week, and then you have Blanco to start one of those games in it for May, big Mariners series next week. I think Arrighetti with less work out of the bullpen. If it's an even call, I'd keep Arrighetti in the rotation as that 6th guy and see if Brown can be the 5th reliever. Let's say 6th reliever, because Taylor Scott's done good work behind the big 3 and Montero.
He has done good work, that being Scott, which is much needed considering the fact that you no longer have Brandon Bielak. Do you think maybe there's a chance that maybe Brown eventually fills that long relief role?
I mean, props to Bielak for always taking the ball. He just didn't have good major league stuff. That his ERA was what it was last year is really a byproduct of good luck as much as anything else. On team broadcasts, and I don't just mean the Astros, you're naturally going to try to put a good spin on things. And so when Spencer Arrighetti's ERA was 8.50, well, his FIP is much better, and the exit velocity and numbers would indicate Brandon Bielak was much worse than the surface numbers would indicate. But especially when the Astros are having starters bombed out the first, second, third inning, right? They frankly abused Bielak a little bit because he was disposable. But hey, going to the A's, it'll keep him in the major leagues longer than he would have been here. Hunter Brown, much better stuff. I think much higher hopes for Hunter Brown to be more than just kind of a mop-up guy if he does move to the bullpen. But clearly he's well down the pecking order going out there, because he would be going there by demotion, right? Whatever smiley face would be painted on it that, we think Hunter Brown could be a great reliever. Well, yeah, he's going to go there because he's failed as a starter to this point. So, if Hader, Presley, Abreu, at least Hader and Abreu have things straightened out, Montero's been in and out, at least you wouldn't be asking Brown to take on a substantial role. But if he's a good depth piece in the bullpen, then that's win-win.
Indeed. And look, Joe Espada's got a few decisions here to make that I don't envy him on. The most important one, I think the most critical one, is the one we're going to talk about next in part 2 of Stone Cold Stros. To listen to the full show, it's up right now at your favorite podcast app. And to watch the rest of this conversation, just check back here on YouTube on the Sports Map Houston channel. We're going to have the rest of that conversation soon, maybe sooner than we usually do, just under the circumstances. We'll be releasing that video shorter. So, and as always, go Stros.